Toronto Raptors made Collin Murray-Boyles their 9th overall selection last night at the NBA draft. He averaged just under 17 points, just over 8 rebounds a game last season with South Carolina. Here is Raptors GM Bobby Webster.
I think as a sophomore, we had 2 years to evaluate him. So someone that we identified last year, he decided to stay in school, but sort of had our eye on him going into the season. I think for those of you who watched him, I think, very obvious elite defense, really versatile, great hands, a lot of stocks. So I think for us, it was the defense versatility, but we felt, he has a chance to be a really, really good defender in the NBA.
It's been far too long since we've spoken with our Raptors reporter, Josh Lewenberg, and here's a terrific opportunity to do just that. So, Josh, Toronto selects Collin Murray-Boyles, 9th overall. Were you surprised by that choice?
A little surprised, Jay. I mean, they needed a big, they wanted a big, and there was always going to be a number of bigs, quality bigs, available in that range. But the interesting question to me was going to be, how much risk tolerance did they have at number 9? And I think this pick was pretty safe. And I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. I do think that the ceiling is a little bit higher for some of the other bigs that were available in that range. But the floor here for CMB, I think, is pretty solid. He's a little bit more NBA ready, a little bit more polished than some of the alternatives would have been. And he checks off a lot of boxes for the Raptors. I mean, you look at the NBA Finals that just finished, and what was very clear watching those two teams is that to win at a high level in this league, you need some element of mental toughness and resiliency. You need to have guys that don't shy away from contact and embrace it. You need defensive-minded players, toughness, physicality, all of that. And CMB fits that criteria. He is probably one of the best defensive players in this draft. He takes a lot of pride in his defense. Really versatile player, has great court vision, and it's earned him some comparisons to Draymond Green, which is never a bad thing. Now, the swing skill here is obviously his shooting. He was 9 for 39 from 3 in his 2 years at South Carolina. So it wasn't a huge part of his game in college. It's something that he's put a lot of work in on. And if he can extend his range, I do think that raises the ceiling a little bit. But like I said, really solid floor here where even if he's not a star in the NBA, I see him being a pretty good role player, rotation player quickly and for a long time in this league.
After hearing what Bobby Webster had to say, what do you think this pick says about the future build of this Toronto Raptors roster?
Well, what's interesting, as we all know, is that there was a lot of noise about the Raptors going into this draft. It was widely reported that pick number 9 was available, and we had that confirmed tonight, not just by sources, but by one of the bosses himself. Bobby said that, yes, they were one of the few teams in the top 10 that were willing to deal their pick, which is why there was so much trade speculation and so much noise. Now, ultimately, they had CMB ranked higher than 9, and I think that that's one of the reasons why they were sold on him when he was there. He fell to them, he was on the board, but it'll be interesting to see where they go from here because they have been pretty active in terms of making calls, receiving calls, looking for things and ways to upgrade their roster in the short term. And I'm not sure that that ends now that the draft is over. Now, yes, the draft is one of those inflection points over the course of the NBA calendar, and Webster referred to it almost as like the first trade deadline before the actual trade deadline. But another inflection point is coming up here too in terms of the start of free agency, and I don't think we're done seeing big moves across the league. It's just the way that the NBA is. Kevin Durant is off the board, but there's always a next guy. So who is that next guy? And you can be sure that the Raptors are always going to be in the mix whenever there's a big name player available. So yeah, I'm not sure that they're done in terms of what this roster looks like. And while CMB is a good addition here, I still get the sense that they'd like to do something here to improve their roster.
Josh Lewenberg, our Raptors reporter. Thanks for this, Josh.